Okay, we are back. Steve Kimbrell, the PodBrother, here at City Rib. We are at the Black and Latino Council. I'm here with a couple of gentlemen who is going to tell me about their business a little bit. Joe from Capstone, and I forgot your name just that quick.
Carl Clay.
Carl Clay from the Cultural
Spectrum Theater.
Black Spectrum Theater. Okay. So how did you find out about the event?
Well, it was through Alvin. I've known him quite a long time, and he was very helpful in a couple of business ventures that I was getting into. And he provided me with some good consultancies with a few connections related to this organization. And it was helpful in terms of me making some business decisions about which way to go in investment, so forth.
Nice. And Joe, how did you find out about the event?
I was introduced to Alvin about 2 months ago. One of our business development officers ran into him at another function. We met at our office, and he seemed to be a very energetic and self-motivated guy, which is the kind of people we look for. And I felt that his reach to the minority community was something we could assist him with in providing funding for undercapitalized companies.
Now, he was telling me about your company, and it's very, very exciting what you do. I reached out a couple of my contacts, and they're very interested in using your business. How did you come up with that, or how did you get into that business? Were you into something and you saw a need or a niche? Because it's pretty clever, and it does help businesses keep the cash flow going. So how did you get into it?
I've been at this for over 23 years. So what has happened over time, in the 90s, when we first started importing goods from China as a country, we positioned ourselves to provide the credit that distributors and licensees needed to acquire goods offshore and bring it into the United States. The first deals we did were Nintendo game cartridges because banks didn't understand them. They were licensed from Hollywood movies, Jurassic Park, things like that. And we filled that void because it was a niche that was being neglected. As we moved through the 90s and the 2000s and into 2010, the government produced new legislation called Dodd-Frank, which essentially freezes small businesses from getting loans from banks. So about 18 months ago, we repositioned the company to fund those types of companies that don't have access to bank funding. And it's been one of the best decisions we ever made. Business is booming. We're helping these small companies grow. And one day they'll be big enough to borrow from the bank.
It's incredibly clever. It's really a good business model. And everybody that I talk to about it on the construction side and the client side are excited about it. So it's very, very, very cool.
Well, a lot of people on Sunday night have anxiety about going to the office. To me, I know I'm going to be helping people every day of the week, so I look forward to getting to the office, and I think most of our staff is in the same position. We can watch a company grow over a 2 or 3 year period from a couple of $1 million to $10 million a year in sales, and that's life-changing business. So we're happy to do it.
Nice. And how do you feel, and this goes for both of you, how do you feel what you do can help the council, the Black and Latino Council? How do you figure your businesses can help the council?
Well, our organization is now in its 44th year of operation. I'm the founder of it, and we provide, we've kind of gone across the entire spectrum of activities for our organization. So not only are we a professional theater company, but we operate a facility, a 325-seat facility. We have outdoor mobile stages that we service the tri-state area with. A lot of the concerts that you see in the parks and festivals are the stages that we supply. We also operate in the schools by doing residencies, and we've created about 25 films, one feature film, and the rest are films that deal primarily with issues that affect young people. How can we be helpful? Well, one of the things we always say to organizations, you want to raise monies for your organization. So we set up a system over the years in which we put on a professional theater production We use our kitchen. We bring in caterers, and the organizations sell their tickets. They have dinner, they watch theater, and they make money for the organization. We do all the work, and they just have to sell their tickets, and it's a win-win-win around the table. So that's how we can help other organizations prosper. We're looking to expand a little bit more in our outdoor mobile stage area because we are like a niche in terms of providing materials for concerts and so forth. So we're going to be looking to expand that way. But how can we help? It's those fundraising activities. That's how we can help.
Awesome. And Joe, how do you think Capstone can help the council?
A lot of the minority business owners attempt to get minority status with the various states and city agencies. And they have an expectation that once they get that status, all of a sudden, business is going to rush to the door. And it doesn't happen that way. They take a tremendous amount of effort to get the status, but they have to go out and compete and get the business. Once that happens and they get rejected a few times, they lose their confidence. What we can do is, because we can put money behind them, is we can restore that confidence and give them the knowledge, back them up with a bid letter so that the agency knows they have the capacity to perform on the job. So those little successes, whether it's $100,000 or $1 million contract, leads to $350,000, a $2 million contract, a $3 million contract. So that's how we can help.
How do you see this, like what you do, helping out the film industry or a film property or a film project? I see the model with construction, and it's brilliant. But have you thought about like how Capstone and that formula and that business model can work in the film industry with maybe investors or producers, studios, independent? Do you see a workflow?
Well, one of the reasons why we know what our limitations are and we know who we can support. So for instance, aside from construction subcontractors, there's a lot of service companies that have significant payroll expense that we can help by factoring their accounts receivable. The movie industry is a little different because they're funded with tax incentives that cities produce. Their budgets are typically pre-funded if it's a real production. That money's in escrow, so it's just drawn upon. So there's not a lot that we can do for them, but there's a lot we can do for other service companies, companies that have a licensed product and they're selling it to retailers. We can help all those companies accelerate their cash flow.
That's awesome. And how can we find you on the web?
You can go to www.blackspectrum.com, or you can give us, you can go on Facebook and also find us. Those are the two areas in which you can get to us.
Nice. And how can we find you, Joe?
www.capstonetrade.com.
Nice. And a final question, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs starting a business?
I would say to learn everything you can about it, and don't think that money is the solution to everything. That you have to put a lot of sweat equity into your business, and I don't mean by just working for free, but if you're starting out, you want to get to know the business. One of the hardest things for me to learn at the beginning is that don't invest in anything that you don't know about yourself. You know, if you know it and you worked it and you massaged it in terms of understanding it, those are the kind of ventures that you get into. So I would just say, learn everything you can and try to make your mistakes when there's no big money involved, you know?
Awesome. Joe, what advice would you give?
I would say don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Failure is the tuition you pay along the way to learn how to be a professional. So you have to give it a shot. If you fail, don't make the same mistake twice, but you're going to fail your way. I always call it failing forward. As long as you fail
I like that.
and you move forward, that's okay. And the other thing is you got to be the last man standing. People quit when they're this close to success,
Yeah.
and you can't give up. To give up, you should get a job.
Yeah.
That is excellent
That's
advice.
good advice.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to come
Thank
by
you.
and chat with us, and good continued success at what you're doing. And
Thank
it
you.
was a real treat and a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve Kimbrell, the PodBrother. We will be right back. This is the National Black and Latino Council at City Ribs. We'll be right back.